for transportation in.
Transportation and now costs are down so they can make a greater profit. Farmers are known to be dirt rich and money poor. And so when we decided to move out of the urban areas, we bought up farmland right outside the city. And farmers suddenly with 80 acres, you give them $2,000 an acre. They have money they've never had before. So we had a choice: farmland, forest land. If you're a developer, and the whole point is to make money, would you want to develop farmland or forest land? Farm, why?
It's easier to develop.
It's easier to develop. It's already been cleared.
Look at Starkey Ranch.
Sure, it's already cleared.
Levittown, Long Island.
Levittown, Long Island. Potato farms, right? Asparagus farms. Okay. So it's $5,000 to clear the land here and prep it to put in a sewer system, electricity, all the stuff you need. Maybe $15,000 here. So they went here. Farmers became rich and people moved out of the city. Now, at this day and age, when there's excess wealth, there are people who choose to pay the extra money for forest land, and we cut roads in there, and you have nice trees that are already mature. Back in this day, they'd put a tree in there, and 20 days later, it would be a big tree. And they weren't thinking they put it next to your foundation, and the roots would break your foundation, then you'd have a lot of extra costs nobody anticipated. This is all driven by money, people. And there's nothing wrong with it. How many of you want to work for free? So the whole ecological system, when it comes to anthropocentric ethics, is built on being able to make wealth. Once again, we recognize that if we take too much out of the environment, we don't have anything to build on. We don't have a way to make cash, to make a commerce. So any questions about anthropocentric? This is where most of us are at. And Leopold says he doesn't have a problem with it, as long as we understand the fragility of nature, and that we need nature in order to make money. Over here, the third one we'll talk about today is individualistic ethics. This is about where 10% of the people are. People who believe in this ethic wants to give nature rights, the same rights you and I have, human rights. Well, let's talk about human rights. How do we adjudicate? How do we judge rights with one another? Well, I can swing my elbows as much as I want until my elbow comes in contact with your nose. When my elbow comes in contact with your nose, what do? We have a conflict, don't we? We go to court. So we settle our rights in an adversarial way. It's called justice. If I win the case, you owe me. If you win the case, I owe you. Or we drop the charges. We go into business together. It's going to be 10 grand. You put up 5, I put up 5. If it's successful, you get 50% profit, I get 50. If it fails, you're paying half, and I'm paying half. That's how the adversarial system goes. What happens if we give nature rights? Okay, I'm a bad drawer. Let's just say that's a grapefruit tree. And I pay $50 to the grapefruit tree to get fruit. And I'm told you got to wait 3 years. I wait 3 years and I don't get any fruit. Do you think I'm going to take that tree to court and get my money back? It ain't going to work that way. Well, wait a minute. You can't give nature rights if nature can't cooperate in an adversarial system. But let's say we could give nature rights. Do I have any hunters in here? When I got out of the military, I just had to go hunting up in northern Michigan. Everybody hunts in northern Michigan. Bought me a .30-06, and in the military you learn to be invisible. I did my research and I figured out how bucks, how mature deer, how they do their rutting and how they get everything going. And I went out at 3 in the morning and I'm all in my place, and about 4 o'clock in the morning I hear this deep masculine voice say, "Don't move." I said, okay, I'm pretty sure that's not a deer and it's probably not a bear. I turn around, there's a guy in an orange suit. I mean, not a leisure suit, I mean a winter suit, you know. And here I am. He says, how long you been out here? I said, long enough to know that you look really weird out here in an orange suit. And he says, yeah, but I'm not going to get shot. Because there are idiots out here and they'll shoot at sounds thinking they're going to bring something home to mama and show their trophy. I thought, wow, idiots, huh? So I got up and I left. Well, I wasn't done hunting, so I went out bird hunting. You ever do bird hunting? I don't know if anyone does hunting in here. Bird hunting used different size shot. This was 6-shot. I went out hunting pheasant one day. We raised them in little twos and we put them out in the field, and you have hedgerows. So I'm walking in the field with my shotgun and suddenly I step on, we call it a covey, and this bird flies up. Bam! And I shoot it and I wing it and it goes down the end of the hedgerow into the forest. And I thought, great. Took another step, and the other one popped up. Bam! Got that one. Well, now I had to decide, do I want both for dinner or not? Carolyn was going to cook me dinner, but I had to come home with something to cook. About that time, a farm boy comes out of the field. He's got 2 hunting dogs. Says, how's the hunting today? And I said, not too bad. I got one. The other one I winged, and he went down there to the forest. Take dogs down there. You can probably flush it out. And about 5 minutes later, I'm thinking, maybe I'll just take the quail home or pheasant. I forget what. Carolyn will cook it for me. And I heard, bam, bam. And the grass in front of me went like this, and the grass behind me went like that. And I thought, some idiot just shot. And I thought they shot through the hedgerow. I'm out of here. So I go to Carolyn's, starts cooking the bird. I have on, it's winter, I have on a heavy white sweater, and then I have on one of these corduroy short jackets, and it's hot in the apartment, so I take it off. It's even hotter than I thought, so I take the white sweater off, and she goes, what's that? And I look down, and this is all red. It's bloody. So I pulled my shirt up, and it hasn't split my skin, and it hasn't got, the shot didn't go in, but it split the skin, so I was bleeding. And I got to thinking, that's where the farm boy went. He either forgot I was here or just got carried away with getting a bird. If he'd have been this way or this way and this high, he'd have peppered my head with bird shot. So I decided not to go hunting anymore because there's idiots out there. I have rights. You have rights. If we give nature rights, animals get rights too. Any of you want to be hunted? No? Do you think animals want to be hunted? You think fishies want to be fished? We used to have this nasty little habit up in Michigan. We call them snagging. You go to the weirs when they're coming up to respawn. They got to go up over the weir to get into the. Where you just put your fish hook down there, and there's enough of them down there. You just pull it out and you snag them on the side and whip them right out on the shore, and you got your fish. You didn't have to go fishing. You just had to snag them. Ow, 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 ow. So the whole point of individualistic ethics is, if we give nature rights, nature has the same rights that we do. If we don't want to be hunted, nature doesn't want to be hunted either. If we don't want to be fished, nature doesn't want to be fished either. Will it work if we give nature rights? Are we willing to be in that relationship with them? I know, let's buy 80 acres of land, and you find out that there are killer bees on the back edge of the 80 acres, and they've been there for the past 20 years just having themselves a killer bee party. Who should really have possession of the land? We do a title search right now to make sure that people selling the land really own the land, because if they don't own the land, whoever does own the land has rights to the land, and you can't buy the land away from them without them making a sale or giving you permission. So even out in nature, it's not going to work. If nature has the same rights that we have, it's not going to work. Any questions about either three of these? So this is all nuts and bolts, people. Individualistic ethics, nature gets rights. Holistic ethics, nature gets respect. Anthropocentric ethics, everything is driven by economics. Leopold says if we adopt an attitude of citizenship and caretakers guided by respect, then we'll have a healthier relationship with nature. It still may not work out, but it's better than the one that's driven strictly by economics. Okay? I need to give you a few more cues so you know what to look for your quiz. So everything I've lectured you is just here. You can go back and read it if you want to review for it or watch the video. I want to go over this, but before we do this, this is the language of ethics. This is probably the one thing that's going to confuse you on the quiz. The language for anthropocentric ethics is the land community, the land relationship, the land use, and land ethics. It sounds very familiar to the language for holistic ethics, the community concept, the biotic community, the land ethic, and the land pyramid. This will stay posted for you for your quiz. If you don't get the language confused, you have a chance of getting 100 on this quiz. The language is going to be the harder thing because it's just going to sound like, well, I remember hearing that in a lecture. So let's go over this for you. The land ethic is developed under three sequences. The first is called an ecological sequence. It's a limitation of freedom of action in the struggle for existence in nature. This is simply mano a mano. one person against another. That changes to a philosophical ethics when we differentiate social from antisocial behavior, so we get what we call the law. Ethics equals the law. These are definitions of one and the same thing, modes of cooperation, which the ecologists call symbiosis. We're in a symbiotic relationship in class. I'm the teacher, you're the student. I try and do my part, you try and do your part. If everybody's successful in their part, hopefully everybody gets an A at the end of the semester. That's just a symbiotic relationship. Since the complexity of cooperative mechanisms has increased with population density and the efficiency of tool making, making three evolving definitions for environmental ethics. The first one is just a repeat of the first one. The second ethic deals with relationships between individuals and society. The third ethic, the community concept. This is holistic ethic language. Does not exist yet. This ethic deals with man's relationship to land, animals, and plants. Since the land relationship is strictly economic, when it says land relationship, it's talking about anthropocentric ethics. It has no obligations, only an evolutionary possibility that will accept a greater responsibility. The community concept, all ethics so far evolve rests upon a single premise that the individual is a member of a community of interdependent parts. The land ethics simply enlarges the boundaries of the community to include soil, water, plants, and animals. Collectively, we call that the land. This changes the role of people from conquerors of the land community to plain members and citizens of it. It implies respect, but not rights. An ecological conscience is something that has to grow within us. We have to see the value of changing the way we look at nature. How many of you, for example, when you, I don't want to get real personal with you, but how many of you, when you see trash on the ground, pick it up and throw it away? And I'm not being judgmental. Most people, it's not my trash, I didn't put it there. So what he's talking about here is in order to embrace the environment in a way that's responsible, according to how Aldo Leopold sees it, we have to take responsibility for the world we live in, for the environment that we live in. When we take responsibility for it, we end up preserving it, and we preserve our situation or our status in it. If we don't, we're going to live with the consequences of it. So any questions about any of this so far, people? I really don't understand how the first four people who took the test ended up with a 90, 60, 50, and 30. This is just nuts and bolts, people. Everything from here on out is, I don't mean to be critical, it's nuts and bolts. The language of ecology, that one that I put up there for you, it is imperative that you have this memorized before you take your test. This is where you're going to trip up, because the language is so similar, and yet the concepts are very different between anthropocentric and holistic ethics, as well as individualistic ethics. If you have these concepts down, there should be no reason that you can't get 100 on this quiz. Any questions from me at all? So I'm going to see all hundreds. Go ahead.
Do you feel like we're moving towards holistic ethics at all?
I would like to think we are. Not everybody is, but I'd like to think we are. Look, one of the things about climate change, and you would have gotten that lecture if we'd had Monday, you'd have gotten that today. One of the things about climate change is that we're not all on the same page, and we know it. You give me a few minutes, people. I'm letting you out way early. The Paris Accord is the global warming agreement we have. The countries that are the worst polluters right now are not being held responsible to do much until a much later date. We're being held, and frankly, we are the most advanced ecological country on the planet. We do more to bring the environment into harmony with humanity than any other country. We still have a long way to go.